February 21, 2023. This is the 2000 tick chart on the S&P 500 E-minis futures on the thinkorswim platform. You can go down to the descriptions below to find out where I took my trades, as well as any points of interest or things that I noted mainly for myself. So this is how the chart looked like today. It kind of just had a very gradual sell-off, as well as some consolidation areas. This is how the chart was after I marked it up. So let me just kind of clarify some things. Okay, so I had a pretty big trading downtrend, a trading channel, and then there was all these little consolidation areas that I found that were just kind of mini trading ranges and congestion. So as you can see yesterday, since it was a holiday, Monday, President's Day, there was trading, but volume was very low, so I didn't bother even trying to trade that. So let's just go into the trades now. So this is the pre-market. I don't trade the pre-market, but I do draw these lines and kind of establish where maybe possible trading ranges and trend channels are. So as soon as the market opens, it had already been, the EMA was pushing prices down. So I saw a second entry long right here, because I'm counting this as a new high, first entry long, and the second entry long. This is a pretty decent signal bar, but also this is coming up on the new economic information, which is like the Flash Services PMI, which comes out around 6:45. So I didn't want to bother taking this trade in case things got choppy. On top of that, this is below the EMA, so I just left that trade alone. Prices continue to move, and you can see right around here, 6:45, news is announced. It doesn't quite whipsaw the chart that badly, or price action that badly. I did draw this trading range, but I didn't take any trades. And this guy is actually, I established this guy rather early, but I didn't trust that it was actually a true trend going down yet. So I actually had it kind of in a lighter font, but it was still there. I could see it, but I know not to treat it with too much respect at this point, because I need more confirmation, and also just need to see prices moving down. Prices continue moving down. Okay, now I see this almost like a double bottom, but I also saw this as a second entry short from here, because this is a new low. It's the first entry short, comes all the way down, second entry short. Now I actually tried to get in on this trade, because once it went up above the EMA, then closed below, I thought, okay, this is enough room down to the bottom. Right now, the overall market seems to be going kind of bearish, but when this candle was forming, this is where I tried to enter. I was watching it, and then I finally decided to take the trade one tick below, but by then, this part of the movement was already complete, and the price action was already all the way down here, and I didn't want to chase it, because my exit strategy was to have entered one tick below and then get out probably with my profit right around here, and then see if I had to get a runner. But once it went past it, I didn't want to chase it, so that was unfortunately a trade that I didn't take and I missed out on. So it's a no-fill trade. Prices continue moving down, and there's really not any super clean setups that I feel safe with at this point, even though it's like you consider this a new low, first entry short, second entry short, but then the second entry short kind of fails right here, touches EMA. It's a little choppy. It's hard to tell what's going on. There is a trading range I drew here, but it doesn't really come into play too much before prices just continue going down. So this is my first trade that I took. I saw this as a new low, and by this time I do draw this trading range, this trend channel. I kind of connected the lines up here, and I liked how it touched 1, 2, 3. I actually had this a little higher, about right here, and I liked that it touched 1, 2, 3 as well, and now it touched a fourth time. And then I saw this as second entry short, because it's a new low, first entry short, second entry short. I like that this closed below the EMA, and so technically this is all signal bars right now. So then this signal bar closed right here, very bearish. I put my order one tick below, and I was able to get filled, and then my runner got stopped out. That's okay. Then it's within this trading range, just kind of chopping left and right, kind of moving. I did see this, since I had this as a trading range, I saw this as a new low, first entry short, second entry short, also a failed breakout. I didn't want to take this trade though, just because I didn't like that it was just coming right off the lows already, and it's pretty close to the EMA now. Even though this is EMA doesn't isn't as important during a trading range, I still do take into account that it is pretty close to the EMA. Had it kind of closed up a little bit higher and this signal bar was actually a little bit tighter, then I would have felt more comfortable taking that trade. So I ended up just kind of letting it go. And I do see a failed second entry short because I can see a new low here, first entry short, second entry short here, and right here it fails. I also saw this as a failed second entry short and a lower high because you could say it's lower high, but if you were to take it right here, I wanted this candle to actually close above the EMA with the body. I feel more confident, but by the time this candle formed and it formed really nicely, it's already at the top of the trading range again. And so I did not want to take this trade just because it would be counter trend to the overall bias of the market. So it turns out it would have worked, but you don't know it at the time. It could have easily just kind of gone here and broke right back down. And you're going to see that it eventually comes right back down again. But who's to say that this price action couldn't have happened right here? So that's a trade I skipped, and I'm okay with that. Prices continue moving down. Now it's breaking down below the low of the trading range, and it breaks through. EMA is holding. I do see a second entry long here. I thought it was kind of aggressive though, because even though it's like a new high, first entry long, second entry long, you can restart the count here saying the first entry long, and then these three candles are all pretty bullish, but they're red. In other words, they closed lower than they opened. So even though I saw this as second entry long, potentially setting up, it's aggressive, and it looked like it would have worked. You would have scalped out pretty quickly, but you'd have to be pretty confident because the EMA is coming up. There's a potential trading range right here. And so I thought it was a pretty aggressive trade to even try to attempt. Then prices continue moving. So at this point, it's clearly a bearish trend going down. So I'm just looking to opportunities to short. And this is a clear sign of a reversal. And so I'm saying that to myself, and I'm just watching price action go down. And all of a sudden, actually not all of a sudden, prices keep going down. EMA is pushing prices down. I do see two measured moves up. I draw this intermediate trend channel because right now it looks like there's a lot of little sell-offs, consolidation, sell-offs, consolidation, sell-offs, and a consolidation, another sell-off, and here's another consolidation. So I'm expecting another potential sell-off. But here I don't really see any good, clean second entries that I trust. You certainly could have said this is a new high, first entry long, second entry long. You kind of group this one together and then a failure. But this is a pretty decent candle, but I wasn't sure if this was actually a valid second entry. So this would be first entry long here, then a second entry long here. So then technically, even though it's a second entry long, it fails, but it comes right back. So this could have been a third entry, but in real time, I wasn't sure if that was actually a third entry or should I have just grouped this little spike as part of one leg down? In hindsight, I think it probably should have been one leg down. And then here it would have been worthwhile to take a trade, but I didn't see that and process all that in real time. So unfortunately, the trade was missed. So then here I do see here you create a new low. There's like a triple bottom, first entry short, second entry short is forming right here. It confirms, but here's the thing, even though it confirms, it's a pretty decent signal bar, but it was already coming close to the new low of the day, which was already made. It broke out of this channel, chop sideways. It's at trading within this trading range that I've established. It already touched and went back up. So to take a second entry short, I felt was a little risky. But then you wait a little bit longer, you see a lower high. I didn't take this lower high just because I wanted this lower high to actually break below the EMA. And you see it never breaks below the EMA. It touches really close, but it never breaks below. So I sat on it and waited. It ended up probably would have been just enough for a scalp, but you'd have to be pretty, I mean, I think there's only like 6 ticks. So your scalp would, I have no idea if you'd actually get filled. So it'd be hard to say, hard to know. So definitely a hard trade to take because also you're coming against the lows of the day. Doesn't mean it couldn't go lower. It's just, it's already kind of tested 3 times. So to say you want to push it all the way down to the bottom, I felt was a little risky. Prices continue moving. So here, now I know this whole day it's been kind of up to this point, it's been trending down. It's consolidating here. And I see this new high, first entry long, and I see this first candle, and it's right here against the trading range. And I thought it's going to break right back into it. And I take a trade one tick above, it fills me. And then on this candle, it stops me out. So this ends up being a red trade. So it is a little unfortunate just because I thought it was going to move right back into the trading range. It kind of does, but EMA is coming up and then it kind of fails, kind of like a failed breakout pullback. So now it looks like it might continue going down lower. EMA is holding. It does go down lower, but I didn't see that in real time. Or I probably didn't process and understand it in real time. I will be looking more carefully from now on. And so then we also have this new second entry short. I consider it a hidden second entry short. Here's a new low. It's a first entry short because here it is. It opens down here, closes up here. Then it opens at the same level, goes down and closes below. So it's my first entry short, and then there's a very distinct second entry short. This candle is pretty good. I like that it's kind of very bearish. It's also a small candle, and it's also closed below the EMA. So I felt this one was, a safer entry because it's also EMA is rejecting prices and it's going with trend. So it turns out working. Prices continue. Then I see another trade and I take it. Oh, too far. See another trade and I take it. This one here is it's setting up. So I counted this as a new high. There's like a first entry long. And then I said it was the second entry long, but it fails. And also it's a second entry short. So how is it a second entry short? It's very tight right in here. So I said it was a first entry short, and then here's a kind of like a hidden second entry short right here. But I have to keep in mind that this is already bottoming right here. So what I did was I figured this is a pretty good signal bar, this one right here, because it closed right at the bottom. Let me zoom in. And I figured there's probably a lot of people that went long thinking and trying to catch the bottom. So there's probably one tick below a bunch of sell orders, sell stop orders for people that decide to go long maybe here or maybe even up here, or just trying to catch the bottom. So I actually placed my order right here, one tick below at around 408.75. And so I figured if it breaks below, which it did on this candle, it's going to pick me up. It picks me up. My stop is up here. Granted, this is a very aggressive trade because it's kind of playing off of what I think is happening, not what price action is telling me, which I should be very careful with. But I ended up able to take it and take a runner down with it because I just assumed, like, even though it's at the bottom, this is risky. I'm selling at the lows instead of buying at the lows. But I saw this triple, I guess, 4-time test, and I thought, okay, well, there's probably a lot of stops there. Granted, there could have been like a huge buyer that pushes it all the way back up, and I was lucky on this trade. In hindsight, I don't think I should have taken this trade. If I would be able to tell myself back then, I would have said, skip this trade. And then prices continue going back down. Prices continue moving up. I don't see any good, clean entries that I feel comfortable with. Things are just kind of chopping sideways. But right now you can see it's a very, very clear downward trend. Now you do have a break and it's going upwards, but I'm still thinking things are going down. Looking for a trade. You could have considered this as a second entry long, but it would have been countertrend because it broke out of this trend channel. So first entry is a first leg up and the second leg up, and then now it's correcting one leg down, second leg down, and now it's going to go back up potentially to make a new high. But this is a terrible, terrible signal bar. You'd have to take it off of this guy or take it at the top of this guy. But if you take it off the top, if you waited for this guy to close, your entry would have been up here, and there's already not that much room to the top of this guy, this candle. So it's certainly the second entry is there, but it felt very dicey to try to scalp or take anything off of that trade. So prices continue to move. I do see a second entry long here, but this is really nothing. No real trade setup. This is a second entry short. Now this one's actually a pretty decent entry because if you have a new low here, first entry short, second entry short. Now I did have this drawn, but it was more of a resistance. And later I drew this as a trading range. But if I drew this early and had confidence in it, this is a pretty small, tight candle. It's only about 2 ticks long. It's only like half a point. So you could put your entry one tick below here, and then maybe even like a couple ticks above, just to give it some room. Turns out this trade works out as a good short, but again, you don't know it at the time. I mean, you're not 100% sure, but all things considered, this might have been a worthwhile trade to have taken. It was a good signal bar. Character is going, overall characteristic of the price action is going down. And so I ended up just keep watching, and it's kind of getting close to the end of the day. Now I do see a second entry short here. If you take a new low, first entry short, second entry short. Again, now this is established as a trading range. This is a terrible signal bar. And then this one's not that much better because even though it broke below, it confirms a second entry short. It closed up high. So you'd have to be basing it off that this trading range is going to reject and this is going to be a failed breakout. So if I were to take this trade, I actually take it on this one after this one closed, because even though it's a first entry short, second entry short, failed second entry short, barely, actually it doesn't quite fail. It's still unsure if it's a full on second entry short. If I were to take a trade, I'd take it here, but I'm already close to the EMA. So to take that trade would just be kind of risky. Also, you're kind of getting close to the end of the day. Turns out it would have worked because it blasted right through the EMA and then continues lower. But again, in real time, it's hard to know for sure if that's a high probability trade. If this candle didn't flash down so much and actually closed, it didn't have this really, really long tail, closer to this guy, maybe even if it was a little bit higher and then this guy came about, I feel confident taking that trade. But this one, since it flashed down, it opened up here, came down, went to the high, and then ended up closing lower, right close to this trading range. It made me feel a little bit unsure about taking that trade. And so I ended up letting that go. That's okay. Rest of the day, the price is just kind of chopped sideways into the close. And that's how I saw it. Unfortunately, had I been better at taking some of these trades, like even this one, but I'm pretty sure my runner would have stopped me out. My core would have I would have taken the profit. But if you had a read of the price action, knowing that it's just going to go down all day, there's some big moves. But although the big moves were there, I didn't see very many clean entries. So there weren't many safe entries. And even though the clean moves came, or even though the big moves came, they weren't clean. So there's like a lot of down, chops around, down, chops around, down, chops around. So in order to get like a really, really big home run hit, you would have had to have just taken an entry and just held on through these big, big pullbacks, potentially giving up a lot of paper profits, watching them disappear, and then trusting that it's still going to go down. So to say that you would just like short up here and just wait, you could have. I mean, there are people who do that, but that's definitely not me because you don't know that this is going to play out like this. I mean, it's a very gradual, very steady, very organized sell-off. So it wasn't quite a knee-jerk down. It's very strong, though. However, there were some pretty nice, clean pullbacks to have taken out your runners or even taken out your trade. So that's how I saw it. So hopefully this was helpful.